We started to build the yurt in the summer of 2007. My son was moving back to Cortez, and we wanted to build something that we could all work on together. So it was my neighbor, my son, and myself. We started off by building a deck, 36 by 44 feet, and we ordered a yurt from Colorado Yurts in Montrose, a 30-foot diameter yurt, which came and arrived on site. The deck took us about 2 months to build, but the actual yurt itself we did in a day. Because there's high winds that come up in the afternoon. So we started off by putting up the lattice. We had a group of people that came over and helped us. We put up the compression ring and the rafters next. And then just continued putting on the rafters until they were all in place, the doors in place. Next is we put on the insulation, and then the roof. You can see the dome is getting ready to put on. There's a valance that goes around that covers up to protect the walls. And there's the deck. You can see it's pretty bare out in the pasture there. The trees have not started to grow yet. We put in the utilities. The water and gas came from our house about 100 feet away. In the electric we put in from the street. Put a railing around the side so the kids wouldn't fall off the deck. We put in real windows to help improve circulation and a swamp cooler so it wouldn't get too hot in there. There's a soil stack there for the composting toilet. I put in an awning to help shade the doorway there so it wouldn't get rain on it. And there you can see in the wintertime what it looks like. After we built the yurt, we were worried about longevity. The sun is very strong in Colorado, and that's a 15-year lifespan on that roof. So immediately we started thinking, well, what are we going to do when that roof wears out? You can see the valance around the top. The sun is starting to deteriorate it already. The door on the east side, the south side, we did not use very much, so I went ahead and just nailed it shut, put a doggy door in it. I built a ferro cement raised bed for gardening there, you can see. And you can see in the background that valance is just deteriorating. The trees have started to grow up. So I decided I was going to have to do something, and I didn't want to just put another fabric roof on it. So I started looking into stuccoing with a modified latex cement roof, which I looked up on villacreations.com, and they give the recipe how to do it and some videos to show how to do it. But I had never really done anything like that before. So I started planning a wall in the front of the house just to practice on. And on that wall, I wanted to recreate what I was going to do on the yurt. So I just put studs and stretched 30-pound felt paper across it, and then put on that fiberglass lath. And then I stapled the lath to the studs. And then I was going to do a traditional 3-coat stucco system on top of that, a scratch coat, a brown coat, and a color coat. With the lath just stretched across the studs, you lose a lot of stucco when you do that. So the end product is kind of wavy, but it came out all right. I did a float finish on it, and it was kind of like a windbreak there for my barbecue pit. So after I did that, I said, okay, let's go ahead and do the yurt. So there's that, the south side where the door was. I went ahead and took it off. I had to splice in some extra studs and rearrange the wiring. And then I didn't like the way it just went over the studs. So I decided I needed to put some sheathing all the way around the yurt. So I got a 1/2-inch plywood sheathing that I put on Went all the way around the yurt. I went ahead and covered up some windows that we weren't using. And you can see the red marks on the top. That's where all the studs, the rafters and the studs coming down from them. I had to splice in some extra studs where the ends of the plywood met up because it wasn't quite equidistant around. I went ahead and screwed the plywood to the studs. It gave it a good stability and firmness to it. There you can see the whole thing all the way around and all the trees grown up around it and everything. After that, I put on the weather-resistant barrier, 30-pound felt paper. Was the first layer that went around. And on top of that, we put on the fiberglass lath. This is spider lath. I wanted to use fiberglass just because I didn't want to use the metal lath. It's a lot easier to work with. And it's 700 square feet is the surface area of that yurt. And I put in corner bead around the windows and that doggy door and the doors. I didn't have anything specific for stucco where I live, so I just went to Home Depot and got stuff for drywall, but that worked fine. It went around doors and windows. I started off the scratch coat. My brother came down and helped me, and we just put on that first layer, embedding the stucco in the fiberglass. And the end result on that scratch coat, it was kind of wavy, you can see there, but that's just the nature of how it goes on. It took us about 3 days to put on that scratch coat, and then my brother had to go back. So on the brown coat, I went ahead and did myself, and you can see each day I would mix up the supplies and then put it on. It took about 3 or 4 hours every day, and I was able to get about 10 feet. So it took me about a week to go around and put on that brown coat. One thing about doing it that way is you get those cold joints where you can kind of see where I started and stopped every day. So I needed to think about that when I put on the color coat. But there as it dries, I went ahead and let it cure for 28 days and just put water on it, and there's some detail around the door with that corner bead. Where the walls meet the roof, there's a gap there. So to work on that with my modified latex cement, I put on burlap, 6-inch valance all the way around first, and then I stretched burlap down from the top, went ahead and stapled it to those rafters. So made sure it's stapled real well. And then the wind kind of came up and was messing things up. So you can see there's some gaps there. I went ahead and had to go back and put in a few more layers and staple it down really well on top of those rafters. So there it's all completed. So it's ready for that modified latex cement roof. I went ahead and mixed that up. It was 1 bag of Portland cement to 3 gallons of Sika latex concrete adhesive. Quikrete also has some, and 3 gallons of water. And I went ahead and mixed that up in a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket. And we took those buckets and just dumped them out on the roof on the top and rolled it down. So we had a pulley system inside. We put the cement into a bucket, pulled it up to a platform, and then got it out of onto that little platform and then just dumped it out of the top and poured it out and rolled it down with rollers. We had to be real sure that where it met up on the edges to seal it real well, because that's we didn't want it to leak. We put the first coat around, and then we did an additional 3 coats. The second and third coat was the same recipe as the first, except it had an equal amount of sand to the Portland cement, and then the final coat was just like the first coat without the sand. And each day we would put it on and let it dry overnight, and then put on another coat the next day. So it was 4 coats there. It looks all completed. Then we put on the color coat. I wanted to go ahead and put that color coat on in just one day to avoid those cold joints we were talking about. So my brother-in-law, my brother, and I worked on it. I went ahead and mixed it. They put on the stucco, and we went on around, and then I came back after them and did a float finish, a sand float finish on it. So that just took us a morning. It didn't take all that long. There it is finished. And I put that blue line around the top. The next step is to go ahead and put on just latex paint. So we did the same system. We just pulled it up to the top, the paint buckets of paint, and dumped it out, and then rolled it down. We put on 2 layers of latex paint. First was that white layer, and then the final coat was like a sand color finish. We just rolled it out, made sure we put plenty of paint there. And again, we just put it on one day, let it dry, put the next coat on the next day. And you can see the whole yurt is getting a little bit lighter as it dries. The next, I went ahead and put the dome back up on the top. We just pulled it up there and screwed it down. And there is the yurt almost finished. Went ahead and put a blue line around it just for some detail, painted the doors, and there it is. I'm anticipating that I won't have to redo this at all anymore. We finished just in time. A few weeks after it was finished, the winter came and the cold weather and snow. So we're very happy with the project, and thank you very much.